Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Yeager and I've brought you the first of 12 weeks of Christmas, and this is week 2 this week. And I wanted to show you the same cardstock that we used last time but in different colours, so we're going to make this card today. And this is one of my favourite sayings: friendships refresh the soul. I love this saying, and I decided to use it on this card. Also decided to use some tags on this card, and I'll show you what I did with that. So these are the colours that I used. I used this, and I used the other side of it, which is this, and then I used this, and I used the dark bit, and you can see that I've cut out the tag from there. So I end up with these 2 tags and then one on vellum. But before we do that, I thought I'd show you how to put it together. It's really fairly basic. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this strip on first. So I've got my card base. This is Misty Moonlight. I'm going to fold it in half and I'm going to burnish it. Okay, now that's my base. This is the inside of my card, and I can actually do this now. I had a tiny strip of cardstock left, and I thought that it would be nice just to put it again down the inside of the insert. So I'm going to do that with this. So I'm going to get some runner tape. There we go. I think that's it covered. And I'm just going to put it along the left hand side of this. Okay, you'll notice that it's a wee bit longer than what the card is, so I just snip that off at the end. So that's my insert. That will go inside the card like that. Now I'm going to do the front of the card. I've already cut out a strip of this beautiful blue and cinnamon cider paper, and it's 5 centimeters approximately, and should be about the same length as the card, except this one's a little bit smaller. So I'm going to cut another one out. This sometimes happens. So what I shall do is 5 centimeters, and I suspect that one was 14.3. Here we go, and that should be the right length this time. And that's going to fit on there. But rather than just place it on that, I thought I'd use some cinnamon cider behind it to make a couple of little borders. So the easiest way to do that is to turn your DSP over, run your tape right up the edge of the DSP on both sides. So I've got some on that side and some on this side. Now I get my 2 strips that are about 1 centimeter wide, and I'm going to place the cardstock on top of the strip so that about 1/2 centimeter peeps out, like that. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. So about 1/2 centimeter peeps out again. And that's basically that layer of the card, and that will go on like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. It's probably enough on it. And I don't want it to go right to the edge. I want to sort of leave a little bit of the Misty Moonlight border and set it like that. So that's the front of my card. This is my insert. And while I'm at it, I'll just glue it in place. And it goes on. Like that. So that's there. Now, I've already cut out 2 tags. I was telling you about these wonderful tags. I will be next week I'll be showing you great ways to use these. You get 8 of these tags plus these little covers that you can put over the end of the tag, and you can cut out your paper with that. You can use colored paper, you can use white paper, you can use whatever you like. Even that's, you know, you could use that if you wanted to. So I'm going to use this one with the curved top today. But before I do that, I wanted to show you my top layer is going to be vellum. Now when you stamp in vellum, very often the ink takes a while to dry. So one of the tricks is you can actually use some clear embossing powder on the ink. It gives it a bit of a shiny surface. And I'm just going to show you how to stamp on the espresso brown tree trunk. And I've got my cinnamon cider here. And I just layer it up and press it on like that. Now if I touch that right now, it actually is still quite wet. You might see it a little bit wet. So very often what I will do, if I want to get it done, is get the clear embossing powder, put it on the top like that. Now when I dry that with the heat tool, it becomes like this, becomes shiny. The moment you notice that it's got a bit of a dull look to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out with the tag. So I'm going to press it on, but I thought I'd show you today our mini cutter. This is a wonderful little cutter for your table, and when you've only got a small thing to cut out, it's really easy to use. So what you need is your base plate and plate number 2, your embossing powder, this embossed vellum, and put this on top, and we're going to run it through the mini cutter, just like this. And I'm going to move it. The wonderful thing about this is you can close it right up again, move it out of your way. So, got my vellum, move my plates out of the way, and I've got my top tag. So what my plan is to put that one and this one underneath and tie all 3 of them together. Now sometimes when you want to do something like this, I'm going to use some ribbon, you have to be a little bit inventive. So I've got this white crinkle ribbon, and I'm going to show you how I can color it so that it tones in with the card just like this one. So Here we go. I just get my ink pad. I've got a watercolor pen here that has water inside it. You can see probably the water in there. And I'm just going to use this to colour the ribbon. So I'll just move those out of the way while I do this. And if it's too dry, just give it a little bit of a squeeze and some water will come out. Like that. I can actually set this ribbon on that so that it colours in. And that's the easiest way to get your coloured ribbon. If you want it darker, just add a bit more ink to it. And you'll notice that it becomes much darker. And now I've got some ribbon that matches my card. So give this a moment to dry. And what I'm planning to do is I close this up. Always a good idea when you're stamping to close your stamp up. Now I'm going to put all three together like this, and I'm going to thread the ribbon through the top one. Number one, number two, and number three. And this ribbon's still a little bit damp, so I'm just going to be careful I don't get it on my top. What I often do when I want to do this is dry it off with the heat tool, and that means that it dries very, very quickly. So I can make a bow. There we go. Now I want to make my ribbon a little bit smaller than it is at the moment, so I'll just pull that little back in a little bit. And I've got my ribbon, and I've got my three tags placed together. Now I still think that that's a little bit pale, so I'm going to add a little bit more brown to this part of the ribbon, so it just looks a little darker. There we go. And I will trim that off so that it is a tiny bit shorter. There we go. So that's my tag. Now, I've almost finished. So we've got this here. We're going to place this on the card. Now, I like to be able to see all three tags. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to glue down the top two. I'm just going to put some running tape, just a little bit on the back one. And I'm going to place it so that the ribbon's just right on that cinnamon cider. Now, that means that these can move. They can be on top of each other, or you can have them like that. You could glue them down, I guess, if you wanted to. Now, I want to put a sentiment at the bottom. As I said, one of my favourite sentiments in Beauty of Friendship is friendships refresh the soul. And I've already stamped it out in cinnamon cider. And again, I actually used some clear embossing powder on it to make it a little bit shiny. Now, sometimes if I just don't want it to be straight on the bottom, but I want a bit of character, like I've got on this card, I just get my scissors and I just go around the sentiment like this here, just following the outside of the sentiment. To just give it a little bit of character and shape. And I've got my sentiment like that. And that will go on the bottom of the card with some dimensionals. And of course my pick has disappeared, so what I shall use is my scissors just to lift the dimensionals up. This sometimes happens when you're doing one of these videos. I'm just going to put a few, and you might remember last time I told you that you can use the edge ones, so I'm just going to use an edge one over there. So I've got 4 on it, and that will be plenty. Some people like to put lots and lots on, but I find that this works quite well. And now place it at the bottom of my card. Just like that. And that's my finished card. I'm feeling it's not quite as straight as it should be. Just move it a tiny little bit. And that is my card, Friendships Refresh the Soul. Now, we've been in lockdown for 3 months, and I know that I've missed having coffee with friends, and I know that my soul is really refreshed when I can get to see friends and family. So I'm looking forward to getting out of lockdown in the next week and being able to go and have coffee dates with people. So this is my card for today, for week 2 of my 12 weeks of Christmas. Thank you for joining me today.